For decades, Julie Andrews stood as one of the most beloved performers in the world. Her voice helped create some of the biggest moments in film history, and her talent earned admiration across generations. Yet behind the fame, applause, and unforgettable success was a series of painful losses, personal struggles, and devastating setbacks that changed the course of her life. Many fans know the legend, but far fewer know the heartbreak she carried. What really happened behind the smile? Long before she became one of the most beloved entertainers in the world, Julie Andrews was a young girl growing up in England during a time of uncertainty and hardship. She was born Julia Elizabeth Wells on October 1, 1935, in Walton-on-Thames, Surrey, England. Her early years were shaped by the difficult realities of a world moving toward war. Like many children of her generation, she experienced a childhood that was far from easy. Her parents separated when she was still young. The family situation became complicated, and life often felt unstable. Yet amid those challenges, one extraordinary gift began to emerge. It was her voice. From an early age, family members noticed that Julie possessed a rare singing ability. Her vocal range was remarkable, even as a child. While other children were learning simple songs, Julie could reach notes that astonished experienced musicians. Music quickly became more than a hobby. It became a refuge. It became a future. During World War II, Britain faced enormous hardship. Cities endured bombings. Families lived with uncertainty. Yet even in those difficult years, Julie's talent continued to grow. Her stepfather, Ted Andrews, recognized the potential in her voice. Together with her mother, Barbara, he encouraged her to perform. Soon, Julie was appearing in public shows while still very young. Audiences could hardly believe what they were hearing. A small child stood before them, producing notes with incredible control and power. The performances attracted attention almost immediately. People talked about the young singer long after the shows ended. As the years passed, Julie dedicated herself to improving her craft. Success did not come simply because she possessed natural talent. It came because she worked tirelessly. She practiced. She listened. She learned. Every performance became another opportunity to grow. By her teenage years, she was already building a reputation in British entertainment circles. Producers and theater professionals began taking notice. Opportunities that once seemed impossible slowly became reality. The stage felt like home. Standing beneath bright lights, Julie displayed a confidence beyond her years. Audiences responded warmly to her charm and remarkable voice. Her performances carried an emotional quality that connected with people. Soon, larger opportunities arrived. In the late 1940s and early 1950s, Julie continued performing and developing her skills. Her growing reputation eventually opened doors far beyond England. A major turning point came when she moved into professional theater. This was a world filled with competition. Many talented performers dreamed of reaching the top. Very few actually did. Yet Julie Andrews was different. Her combination of vocal excellence, discipline, and stage presence made her stand out from the crowd. As the camera might show old theater photographs and packed audiences, her journey began accelerating at a remarkable pace. In 1954, she achieved a breakthrough when she starred in the Broadway production of The Boyfriend in New York. For many performers, reaching Broadway would have been the ultimate goal. For Julie Andrews, it was only the beginning. American audiences quickly embraced her talent. Critics praised her performances. Theater insiders saw something special in the young British performer. The entertainment industry had discovered a rising star. Her career gained even more momentum when she appeared in the musical My Fair Lady in 1956. The production became a sensation. Night after night, audiences filled the theater. Julie Andrews' portrayal of Eliza Doolittle earned widespread praise. Many considered it one of the defining performances of the era. Her name was becoming known around the world. Success continued with another major production, Camelot, where she starred opposite celebrated performers and further proved her abilities. By this point, Andrews had become one of the most respected names in musical theater. Yet the biggest opportunities were still waiting ahead. Hollywood had begun paying attention. Film producers recognized that her talent could captivate audiences far beyond the theater stage. Then came the role that changed everything. In 1964, Julie Andrews starred as Mary Poppins. The film became an enormous success. Audiences were enchanted by her warmth, charm, and unforgettable musical performances. Children adored her. Adults admired her talent. The movie transformed Andrews into an international superstar almost overnight. Her performance earned her the Academy Award for Best Actress. It was a remarkable achievement. Years of dedication had finally brought her to the very top of the entertainment world. Yet there was little time to pause. Another historic opportunity soon arrived. In 1965, Andrews starred in The Sound of Music. The film became one of the most beloved movies ever made. Its songs were heard across the globe. Families returned to theaters again and again. Her portrayal of Maria captured hearts everywhere. As scenes from the Austrian mountains filled cinema screens, Julie Andrews became more than a star. She became a cultural icon. The success was extraordinary. Magazine covers featured her image. Television appearances increased. Fans admired her elegance, professionalism, and seemingly endless positivity. To the public, her life appeared almost perfect. She had fame. She had success. She had admiration from millions. The future seemed brighter than ever. But fame often hides realities that audiences never see. Behind the smiles and applause were long work schedules, enormous expectations, and growing personal pressures. The world saw a woman living a dream. What many did not see were the sacrifices required to maintain that dream. As her career continued reaching new heights, challenges quietly began appearing in the background. The spotlight was brighter than ever. Yet beyond the cameras and standing ovations, another story was beginning to unfold. But while the world celebrated her success, private struggles were quietly gathering behind the curtain. By the mid-1960s, Julie Andrews had achieved what few performers ever could. She was one of the most recognizable faces in the world. Mary Poppins had made her a Hollywood sensation. The Sound of Music had transformed her into a global icon. Her voice was celebrated across continents, and her image appeared everywhere from magazine covers to television screens. To millions of fans, Julie Andrews seemed to have everything. Yet success often tells only part of the story. Behind the fame was a woman trying to balance an extraordinary career with the realities of everyday life. While audiences saw glamorous premieres and standing ovations, Andrews faced the same challenges that many people encounter when trying to maintain relationships, family responsibilities, and personal happiness. The demands of stardom were relentless. Film productions required months away from home. Promotional tours took her across countries and continents. Interviews, rehearsals, recordings, and public appearances filled her schedule. Every achievement came with a price. As the entertainment industry celebrated her success, Andrews worked tirelessly to meet expectations. Directors wanted perfection. Studios wanted box office success. Audiences expected every performance to match the magic that had made her famous. The pressure never truly disappeared. At the same time, her personal life was evolving. In 1959, Andrews had married set designer Tony Walton. Together, they welcomed a daughter, Emma Walton Hamilton. Like many young couples, they hoped to build a happy family life while pursuing their careers. However, balancing marriage and fame proved difficult. Long periods apart became increasingly common. Professional commitments often competed with personal time. The same career that brought Andrews worldwide admiration also created challenges within her home life. As years passed, maintaining that balance became more complicated. The demands of Hollywood could be unforgiving. Relationships often struggled under the weight of constant travel and public attention. For Andrews and Walton, those pressures gradually took their toll. Eventually, their marriage came to an end. The divorce marked a painful chapter in her life. While the public focused on her professional accomplishments, Andrews privately faced the emotional reality of a relationship ending. It was a reminder that fame could not shield anyone from heartbreak. Life, however, continued moving forward. During the late 1960s, Andrews met filmmaker Blake Edwards, the acclaimed director known for films such as The Pink Panther. Their connection grew quickly, and in 1969 they married. The marriage brought new beginnings, but it also brought new responsibilities. Edwards had children from a previous marriage, and together they built a blended family. Later, the couple also adopted 2 daughters from Vietnam, Joanna and Amy. Family became a central part of Andrews' life. Despite her busy schedule, she worked hard to create stability and support for her children. Friends and colleagues often spoke of her devotion as a mother. Yet even during happier moments, challenges remained. Blake Edwards battled personal struggles of his own, including periods of depression and professional setbacks. The entertainment industry could be unpredictable, and success was never guaranteed. As Andrews supported her husband through difficult times, she also continued carrying the weight of her own career expectations. The public rarely saw these struggles. Instead, they saw the smiling actress attending premieres and accepting awards. The image of perfection remained intact, but reality was far more complex. Throughout the 1970s and 1980s, Andrews continued working in film, television, and live performances. Some projects succeeded. Others failed to meet expectations. Hollywood itself was changing. The era of classic movie musicals that had helped make Andrews famous was fading. New styles of filmmaking were emerging. Audience tastes were shifting. For many performers, such changes could be frightening. Careers that once seemed unstoppable could suddenly slow down. Andrews adapted as best she could. She explored new roles and continued challenging herself creatively. Her professionalism remained respected throughout the industry. Yet beneath her calm exterior, she understood something important. Success could be temporary. Public admiration could change. The entertainment world rarely stood still. As the years passed, Andrews focused on family and meaningful projects rather than chasing constant fame. She remained beloved by audiences, but life had taught her that happiness could not be measured by awards or box office numbers alone. The experiences of marriage, parenthood, divorce, and career uncertainty had given her a deeper perspective. Still, one thing seemed certain. Through every challenge, one gift remained unchanged. Her voice. The voice that had carried her from wartime England to international stardom. The voice that had inspired generations. The voice that had become inseparable from her identity. It was the foundation of everything she had built. No one could imagine that this extraordinary gift was about to face the greatest threat of her life. A decision intended to help her career would soon lead to a devastating outcome. And the consequences would change everything. Then a single decision would trigger a heartbreaking event that changed her future forever. For more than half a century, Julie Andrews' voice had been her greatest gift. It was the sound that filled theaters. The sound that brought beloved characters to life. The sound that turned a young girl from England into one of the most celebrated performers in entertainment history. Audiences around the world knew that voice instantly. Clear, powerful, elegant. It seemed inseparable from who she was. But by the 1990s, subtle warning signs began to appear. Years of performing had placed enormous demands on her vocal cords. Decades of concerts, recordings, films, and live appearances had required constant use of an instrument that, like any part of the human body, could become strained over time. At first, the problems appeared manageable. During performances, Andrews occasionally noticed changes in her voice. Certain notes became harder to reach. Some sounds no longer felt as effortless as they once had. The difficulties were frustrating, but they were not yet alarming. Many singers experience vocal fatigue throughout their careers. Andrews hoped rest and proper care would solve the issue. Unfortunately, the situation gradually worsened. Medical examinations revealed that there were concerns involving her vocal cords. Specialists believed that treatment could help address the problem and potentially restore the flexibility she needed for future performances. For someone whose career had been built on singing, the possibility of improvement offered hope. Andrews wanted to continue performing. She wanted to continue sharing her voice with audiences. Most importantly, she wanted to preserve the gift that had defined her life's work. In 1997, she made a decision that seemed reasonable at the time. She agreed to undergo throat surgery. The procedure was intended to remove what doctors believed were non-cancerous growths affecting her vocal cords. The expectation was positive. The goal was improvement. No one expected disaster. As Andrews prepared for surgery, she likely believed she was taking an important step toward protecting her future career. Instead, she was unknowingly approaching one of the most painful moments of her life. The operation did not go as planned. After the procedure, Andrews discovered that her singing voice had been severely damaged. The outcome was devastating. The very treatment that was supposed to help her had produced the opposite result. For a performer whose identity was deeply connected to music, the impact was almost impossible to describe. Imagine spending a lifetime mastering a craft. Imagine dedicating decades to perfecting a skill. Then imagine waking up and realizing that skill may never fully return. That was the reality Andrews faced. The loss was not simply professional. It was deeply personal. Her voice had been part of her since childhood. It had carried her through wartime England. It had opened doors to Broadway. It had helped create cinematic history in Mary Poppins and The Sound of Music. Now it was changed forever. As news of the damage spread, fans around the world reacted with shock and sadness. Many struggled to understand how such a thing could happen. The woman whose voice had inspired generations could no longer sing the way she once had. The emotional toll was enormous. Andrews later spoke openly about the heartbreak she experienced during this period. While she remained dignified in public, the reality behind the scenes was far more painful. There were moments of frustration, moments of grief, moments of uncertainty. Questions filled the future. Would she ever sing again? Could her voice recover? What would happen to her career? The answers were not encouraging. Although she retained the ability to speak, the vocal damage significantly affected her singing capabilities. The loss was permanent enough to alter the course of her professional life. For many artists, such a setback might have ended everything. The temptation to withdraw from public life would have been understandable. After all, the gift that had made Julie Andrews famous was no longer the same. But despite the heartbreak, she refused to surrender completely. That determination became one of the most remarkable parts of her story. Rather than allowing tragedy to define her future, Andrews searched for ways to move forward. The process was not easy. Healing emotionally often took longer than healing physically. There were reminders everywhere. Songs she could no longer perform as before. Memories of concerts. Memories of standing before audiences and hearing their applause. Each memory carried both pride and pain. Meanwhile, another difficult chapter unfolded. The medical outcome eventually led to legal action. Andrews filed a lawsuit related to the surgery, arguing that the procedure had caused permanent damage. The case attracted significant public attention. For many observers, it highlighted the devastating consequences that medical complications can sometimes create. Eventually, the matter was resolved through a settlement. Yet no legal outcome could truly restore what had been lost. The voice that audiences remembered from her greatest performances would never fully return. That reality remained heartbreaking. Still, Andrews showed remarkable resilience. Instead of disappearing, she adapted. She shifted her focus toward acting, writing, and other creative projects. She continued working. She continued creating. And she continued inspiring people. Yet the pain never completely vanished. For fans, the loss of her singing voice felt tragic. For Julie Andrews herself, it was something even deeper. It was the loss of a lifelong companion. A gift that had shaped every stage of her journey. A gift that had helped her touch millions of lives. Most people assumed this devastating setback would become the final defining chapter of her story. But life still had more lessons to teach. And some of the most emotional moments were yet to come. Most people believed this loss would end her story, but an even more emotional chapter was still waiting ahead. When Julie Andrews lost the singing voice that had defined much of her life, many people assumed her career was over. It would have been understandable. For decades, audiences had associated her with unforgettable songs, powerful performances, and one of the most recognizable voices in entertainment history. The loss seemed impossible to overcome. Yet Julie Andrews had spent her entire life facing challenges. And once again, she chose to move forward. The years following the surgery were not easy. There was disappointment, there was grief, and there was the difficult process of accepting a new reality. The woman who had once effortlessly filled theaters with music now had to rethink her future. For a time, the adjustment was painful. Every performer develops a relationship with their talent. For Andrews, singing was more than a profession. It was part of her identity. The loss could not simply be replaced. But rather than focusing on what was gone, she gradually turned her attention toward what remained possible. That decision changed everything. Instead of stepping away from public life, Andrews explored new creative paths. Acting continued to provide opportunities. Her warmth, intelligence, and presence remained as strong as ever. Audiences still admired her. Directors still respected her. And the entertainment industry still recognized her extraordinary abilities. As the years moved into the late 1990s and early 2000s, Andrews appeared in several successful projects that introduced her to a new generation of viewers. One of the most notable came in 2001 with The Princess Diaries. Playing the elegant Queen Clarice Rinaldi, Andrews captivated audiences once again. Young viewers who had never seen Mary Poppins or The Sound of Music suddenly discovered her charm and talent. The film became a major success. Its popularity led to a sequel, allowing Andrews to continue reaching audiences around the world. For many fans, it was inspiring to see her thrive despite everything she had endured. The loss of her singing voice had not taken away her ability to connect with people. If anything, her resilience made that connection even stronger. At the same time, Andrews found fulfillment beyond acting. Writing became an important part of her life. Working alongside her daughter, Emma Walton Hamilton, she co-authored numerous children's books and literary projects. These works allowed her creativity to continue flourishing in a completely different form. The partnership also reflected the close bond between mother and daughter. It became another meaningful chapter in her life. Meanwhile, Andrews remained active in public appearances, interviews, and charitable efforts. Fans often noticed her grace and optimism. Even when discussing painful experiences, she spoke with honesty and dignity. There was no bitterness. There was no self-pity. Only acceptance and determination. However, life continued presenting challenges. As the years passed, Andrews faced the same realities that affect many families. Aging brought changes. Time brought loss. Loved ones grew older. Friends passed away. The entertainment industry itself changed dramatically from the world she had entered as a young performer. Many of the colleagues who had shared her greatest successes were no longer there. The passing of time became increasingly visible. Then came one of the most significant personal losses of her later years. In 2010, her husband Blake Edwards passed away. The couple had been married for more than 4 decades. Their relationship had survived professional ups and downs, family challenges, and personal hardships. Through it all, they had remained partners. His death marked the end of an important chapter. For Andrews, it was a profound loss. The man who had stood beside her through some of the most difficult periods of her life was gone. Once again, she faced grief. Once again, she faced change. Yet, even during this painful period, Andrews demonstrated remarkable strength. Rather than withdrawing from the world, she continued sharing her experiences and wisdom. Interviews from later years often revealed a woman who had learned valuable lessons about resilience. She understood that life rarely follows the path people expect. Dreams can change. Plans can collapse. Loss can arrive without warning. But she also understood something else. People can adapt. People can endure. And people can find meaning even after devastating setbacks. That message resonated deeply with audiences. Many admired Andrews not only because of her achievements, but because of how she handled adversity. She had experienced extraordinary success. She had experienced heartbreaking loss. And through both, she maintained her dignity. As old footage played and photographs from different eras appeared on screen, a powerful truth became clear. The story of Julie Andrews was no longer simply about fame. It was about perseverance. It was about courage. It was about finding purpose after life changes direction. By the time she entered her later years, her legacy had expanded far beyond music and film. She had become an example of resilience, a reminder that setbacks do not have to define a person's future. Yet to fully understand her remarkable journey, it was necessary to look at the complete picture, because only then could the true emotional weight of her story be understood. Yet the full emotional impact of her journey would only become clear when looking back at everything she endured. By the time Julie Andrews reached her later years, she had become far more than a celebrated actress or singer. She had become a symbol of talent, a symbol of perseverance, and perhaps most importantly, a symbol of grace in the face of adversity. For decades, audiences around the world associated her with joy. They remembered the magical nanny floating down from the sky in Mary Poppins. They remembered the young governess singing across the mountains in The Sound of Music. They remembered a voice that seemed almost impossible to forget. But behind those cherished memories was a much deeper story. It was a story filled with sacrifice. A story marked by disappointment and loss. A story that revealed the human being behind the legend. Looking back across her life, the journey seems remarkable. A young girl born in England during difficult times discovered an extraordinary gift. Through dedication and hard work, she transformed that gift into one of the most successful careers in entertainment history. The road was never easy. Years of rehearsals, countless performances, endless travel, pressure from audiences and studios. Every success required effort that few people ever saw. The public often witnessed only the finished result, the standing ovations, the awards, the fame. But those moments represented only a small part of the story. Like many performers, Andrews paid a personal price for success. Relationships required sacrifice. Family life demanded careful balance. Professional expectations never disappeared. And despite achieving more than most artists could dream of, she still faced challenges that fame could not prevent. Perhaps the most heartbreaking was the loss of her singing voice. Even decades later, that moment remains one of the most tragic events in entertainment history. For millions of fans, her voice was unforgettable. For Julie Andrews, it had been part of her identity. The damage caused by the 1997 surgery changed her life forever. Yet what followed may be even more inspiring than the success that came before. Rather than allowing the tragedy to define her future, Andrews adapted. She reinvented herself. She continued acting. She became a successful author. She remained active in creative work. She found new ways to connect with audiences. In doing so, she demonstrated a powerful lesson. A person's worth is not limited to a single talent. When one chapter closes, another can begin. That message resonated with people around the world. As younger generations discovered her through films like The Princess Diaries, they saw not only a talented performer, but also a woman who had overcome extraordinary obstacles. Meanwhile, longtime fans continued celebrating the work that had shaped their childhoods and memories. The impact of Julie Andrews extended far beyond entertainment. Teachers used her films to introduce classic storytelling. Families shared her movies across generations. Musicians admired her vocal achievements. Actors respected her professionalism. Writers appreciated her creativity. Few performers have influenced so many different audiences for so long. Recognition continued throughout her later years. Awards honored her contributions. Organizations celebrated her achievements. Industry leaders praised her career. Yet perhaps the greatest measure of her success could not be found in trophies or ceremonies. It could be found in the affection people felt for her. Across decades, audiences consistently viewed Andrews as someone genuine, someone kind, someone who remained grounded despite extraordinary fame. That reputation was not built through publicity campaigns. It was built through actions, through professionalism, through resilience, and through the way she handled hardship. As the years passed, Andrews often reflected on her life with gratitude. She spoke about family. She spoke about creativity. She spoke about the importance of moving forward. Even after experiencing profound disappointment, she continued finding reasons to embrace new opportunities. That outlook inspired countless people facing struggles of their own. Her story became proof that setbacks do not erase achievements. Loss does not erase purpose. And heartbreak does not erase hope. Today, Julie Andrews remains one of the most beloved figures in entertainment history.